Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in. I'm Robbie.
I'm Jason.
And welcome to the table. We have a fantastic episode prepared for you guys with a very special guest from the mecca of content in the board game space. Jason, would you like to introduce our guest?
Absolutely. I am thrilled to have Chris Yee from the Dice Tower. Now this is a true statement, Chris. When Robbie and I talked about, because basically every 5 episodes we do something different. We'll do an interview, and then 5 episodes later we'll do a list. Then 5 episodes interview, just change it up. And of course, everybody wants to talk to Tom, and eventually we'd love to have Tom on here, right? Because Tom is Tom. But like my number one Dice Tower guy before Tom, right, was you. So I'm very excited. I'm not just saying that because you're on here. So I'm very excited to have you on here for sure. We're actually gonna, for those who. I'm sorry. Were you about to say something, Chris?
No.
Okay. All right,
please keep singing my praises.
Absolutely. You've never believed. They're coming right now. So what, and you see it on the show notes. This is a little peek behind the curtains for our listeners. Cause I just realized today or yesterday, cause we've had Jamie Stegmaier, which was fantastic. We had James Hudson, who folks who listen to know in a weird way, like I am connected to James cause my sister and brother-in-law grew up with James. So they're super close friends. And James actually lives in the same neighborhood with them, like literally right around the corner when he moved back to Alabama. So it's this weird, interesting relationship with James. So we're happy to have James on from Druid City. And then we, of course, had Alex from Board Game Co. last time. And what I realized, each time we've had them on, we've talked games, but I haven't really done an short interview, so listeners can get a better feel for the folks who are on our thing as well as I can, because selfishly, I want to ask these questions as well. So you'll see I inserted in there, Robbie, without even talking to my podcast co-host, that we're going to do a quick interview, if that's all right. Let kind of get me to know you, let Robbie kind of get to know you, and let our listeners get to know you. Are you good with that, Chris?
Absolutely. Fire away. No question. Well, several questions too personal, but the most reasonable one on the table.
Yeah, got you. First one, have you fully recovered from Dice Tower East? Are you still kind of catching up on sleep at this point?
No, I've recovered. So Dice Tower East, as of this recording, was a week ago.
Okay.
And a half, a week and a half ago. So yeah, that first week afterwards, I'm usually pretty trashed after a convention that we run, but, a good weekend. We had a weekend of absolutely do nothing. If you've seen the animated movie K-pop Demon Hunters, there's a scene in there. So this K-pop band, this girl band, are all they're taking their like 1 week of off time from their like grueling schedule, and so 2 of them are just chanting couch, 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 and that kind of became a family mantra this last weekend. So a long-winded way of saying, I finally got some relaxing time.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. And I love the shout out. I have not watched K-pop Demon Hunters, but my kids, they'll be excited to know you did the shout out. So I know, Sungwon is in there, who was just at Dice Tower East. He voices one of the voices, right? In K-pop, I believe. So ProZD, for those who also know him under ProZD. So it's on my to watch list. My wife doesn't really watch anime with me. So I just made to watch one of my other kids, but they, all adult age kids, but they'll be excited about that shout out. So glad to hear that you guys have recovered. I think I said in the email, Elizabeth, my wife and I keep talking about trying to come to a convention, but we lived in Florida for a while, many years ago in Tampa, then moved to Alabama, and now we're in Lynchburg, Virginia, which is like Western Virginia or so, because all 3 of my kids went to Liberty University this year. So it's a little bit of a long drive to Orlando, but or to Florida for any of the conventions down there. Hoping to get down there at some point. So I'm going to give you a softball up here for sure, and you've probably answered this question before, but what got you into tabletop gaming? Was it a family member? Was it a friend? Did you game since you were a kid and naturally evolved into that?
Yeah, I played a lot of games growing up, but there's 2 realms that I grew up playing gaming, right? One was the Monopoly and Risk and those types of things that typically you play. But then also my dad is a casino table games dealer. We're from Las Vegas originally. So I grew up playing a lot of blackjack around the family table for fun, and poker, and him practicing different poker game shuffles and stuff. So anyway, it was so played a lot since I was a kid. Stepped away from just got busy, started going to college and stuff. And about the time that Wendy, my wife, and I started dating very seriously and looking towards engagement, my brother was introduced to Settlers of Catan, Dominion, and Munchkin. So he introduced those to us, and that was kind of the gateway, the portal, the starting point for it all.
Oh, absolutely. That's a common, of course, we all know who've gamed for a while that Settlers is that gateway for so many of us. I'm very similar. Basically, one of my old friends 20 years ago, we got together and he said, hey, we're going to play a board game. I'm like, okay. And he said, you're going to love it and you're going to play it immediately when the game's done because you're going to realize how the game plays. And it was Settlers and Ticket to Ride as well. So that's very cool. I knew you had the Vegas background because I knew you came to Florida from Vegas when you came to work for the Dice Tower, but I didn't know that about your dad. So that's very cool to hear that history. Speaking of that transition, here's one I've heard Tom kind of reference before. So it was during the pandemic when you came to work for the Dice Tower. Is that correct? Or around that time?
Yeah, January of 2021 is when I started.
Okay. So
drove across the country from Vegas out to Homestead, Florida originally.
So the question I have, and again, you've probably answered this before in a Q&A, but if I remember correctly, and of course, correct me if I'm wrong, when Tom did the call out, he didn't give necessarily specific guidance for the application process. And so did you send in like a video application, an email? How did that process go for coming on to the Dice Tower?
Yeah, so the Dice Tower was looking for a new video editor, and then the job description also said, might be on camera some and everything. So it was primarily a letter of interest, not in such formal terms because Tom is the president of the Dice Tower. It's not a very formal person, but it was also an application video. And I thought if I'm applying for a video editing thing, I better show off some of my video editing chops. I didn't go to school or college or anything for video editing. It's just something I've always done on the side as a fun thing. My wife and I had done a podcast for a long time called Meeple Overboard, and we did a little YouTube channel on there. So I had the chops, I had the experience, but no professional training. And thankfully, as I said, Tom is not, the most rigid professional. So he gives people chances, and hopefully this one panned out well.
Yeah, I think it has. For those who haven't, of course, as with most people who are into watching content creation and reviews specifically, we praise the Dice Tower all the time. I love the Dice Tower. It's definitely my top. So, but for those who haven't, if you haven't gone and watched some of Chris's creative liberty on the Dice Tower, is fantastic. Your top 100 from a couple of years ago that you were all these different characters, and there's so many ones to list. It's great. I was trying to go back and watch some of them to reference them, and you have a lot of very similar satirical and a little sarcastic humor here and there in some of those clips, and I love it. Like I'm here for it and love to see it. So that's interesting to hear that background going to there with that not having maybe didn't go to college do it or have the long-term training for it. So that's cool. And I'm glad. I think we're all thankful for that, and we're all reaping the benefit of Tom making a good decision to bring you there. So that's awesome. I have a question for you. This is one that, so we don't talk about too much, but a lot of our fans came over, a lot of our listeners came over from disc golf because Robbie disc golf is a very niche sport. I don't know if you've even heard of disc golf before we emailed you, right? Though I actually got to do one of the intro videos to Wendy and them's top 100 last year. It was like number 54. So if you want to go look at me making a putt, there's me doing number 54 for an intro to the top 100.
That was you. But, okay. No, that's very memorable. Yeah. Not the 54 part, but the putt.
Yeah. But I especially remember when Wendy said something about it. So, so we are in this interesting space because I work at a place called Foundation Disc Golf. It is in the disc golf, very small niche space, probably the biggest content. It is the biggest content creation that's not tied to pro disc golfers, right? There's a disc golf pro tour. It's a whole thing. Like it's a professional sport, nowhere near the money level. So what people often ask me, because in a backwards way, I work in the warehouse, take care of customer service, fulfill orders, run our Patreon, help with Discord, all those kinds of things. So I'm very much a customer experience kind of guy. But what people ask me often is my question. I'm going a long way around the world. I'm going to ask the question, then I'm going to say something and let you answer it. What is one thing that surprised you about the Dice Tower crew, or people would be surprised about that most folks don't know? And I'm not trying to get dirt, because I'll give you my example is that people always ask, the Foundation guys, Hunter and Trevor and Connor, they're very much about being funny and clean and wholesome. The only reason people like Foundation, and Robbie as well, is that our channels you could watch with your 2-year-old kid or your 60-year-old father, right? They're not going to hear anything inappropriate. They're not going to hear anything not even on the edge of inappropriate or bathroom humor. And so people always ask, are the guys from Foundation the same on the camera as they are off the camera? And they're exactly the same, just good guys, nice guys. And people are always surprised to they're always surprised to hear that. And when they meet the guys, they're surprised to hear that. And I was not surprised, but it was a pleasant reminder that there are what they show on the camera. So what is one thing that would maybe surprise other folks or surprised you when you went full time with the crew at Dice Tower?
One thing else, an experience I had before going full time was the first time I ever met Tom. I really liked sharing this story because it has affected the way that I view my responsibility or what I get to do as a part of the Dice Tower crew. He's the first time I met Tom. He was a special guest of honor. Tom, Sam, and Z, right, was the original three back at MeepleCon before it became Dice Tower West, the convention in Las Vegas. It was a homegrown local con, and it had just kind of grown after a few years, and Tom, Sam, and Z were out there. Their faces were on posters. They were advertised everywhere. Come meet Tom Vassell. And so I see him walking up and down the aisles of the convention, just, waving, saying hello to anybody and everyone that wanted to talk to him. And I nervously stood up, and I went to shake his hand. And I said, "Hi, nice to meet you. I'm Chris." He goes, "Hi, I'm Tom." I said, "Well, I'm aware of who you are." And he said, I don't assume that everybody knows, right? I assume that most people don't know who I am. And I kind of looked around at the posters around on the walls and I thought, that's
yes.
odd. But that mentality is there. I think all of us recognize that even at our own conventions, Dice Tower East just happened a week and a half ago, and there were 2,100 people there. And I'm very well aware that a lot of them don't know who I am, and that's fine. I don't know who Tom is, and that's fine. And so I get the joy of, and I try to emulate a little bit of his example. Spend some time walking up and down the aisles and trying to say hello to anyone who wants to spend a minute and say hi to me for whatever reason they want. And I just don't assume that anyone knows who I am. And it's just, I always think of that neat, great first impression that Tom gives.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear. I'm not surprised because Tom seems to present his real self most of the time on the camera that he would be in real life. So that's fantastic to hear. The same thing happens for our guys, Hunter, Trevor, Connor. When they meet anybody, even if they've said their name, Hunter will reach out, shake their hand, and say, "I'm Hunter." Even though if you know Foundation, if you know the Dice Tower, you know Tom. If you know Foundation, you know Hunter. But that level of humility and not assuming it is awesome. And I'm definitely glad to hear that. All right, I got two more questions for you, then we'll move on to the fun stuff. And this, again, I'm not trying to find dirt, but always trying to relate it to what I do. And I'll ask the question and give you my relation to it. So what is your least favorite thing that you have to do at the Dice Tower? And here's why I asked that, because when I first started at Foundation, I pulled and packed all of the orders. And then as I moved on to as when I was part-time, when I moved on to a full-time position, I still do it a lot, but not all the time. But one of my jobs was taking all of our orders to the post office as well. As mundane as that seems, it's not hard at all. But it was literally the worst part. And I got to sit in the car and listen to music for like 30 minutes, right? 15 there, 15 back. Some days was hard when we had hundreds of orders, but most days it wasn't bad. But for whatever reason, it was my least favorite thing to do. I didn't necessarily dislike it, but I would rather do something else. And that's one thing to this day. Like whenever I have to do it, like I'll call my wife, like I got to take stuff to the post office today. There's nothing hard about it. Like I said, I get to listen to music and do no work for 30 minutes, 15 minutes there and back. It's the principle of it. So is there one thing, or what is your least favorite thing to do at the Dice Tower?
That's funny. I'm going to answer, I told myself mentally that I'm going to answer shorter for these questions so we get to the meat of things. But I'm going to answer with a personal anecdote first. Around the house, when did I try to split responsibilities around? And one of my responsibilities before was we had those 5-gallon water jugs that we put in a little water machine, and it was my responsibility to go to the water store, the water kiosk, and fill those up. And as simple and mundane a task as it is, I sit there and go, "Oh, it's that time of month again.
Yeah.
It's easy," but I grumble. Anyway, we have a water system in here now, and it's wonderful. Okay, so at the Dice Tower, I am very fortunate that I really enjoy what I do. And I mean that in all aspects, right? Tom made a huge point during the interview process of reiterating a lot of what we do is inglorious work, right? Packing up things and moving them for when we do conventions. We don't have a team of hired help. We do it all. And It's one of those things where many hands makes light work. So maybe that is like packing up hot stuff in the truck, and moving things out of there. And I think that's one of the neat things about the humility of the office, of the people here that work at the Dice Tower, is that Everyone is a boots on the ground person. Everyone is loading and unloading the trucks. No one is saying like, off to the more important duties. No, Tom is there rolling up his sleeves and doing all the work. The person, there's two people in the office who do what you're talking about. The post office runs, Camilla, and then our behind the scenes office manager, Kenny. Games come in, we play them live, and then the company says, hey, can you send it forward to this other content creator so they can do some content on it? Someone has to run to the post office and drop that box off.
Right.
And as small as a task it is, it's annoying. So if you ever meet them at a convention, Camilla or Kenny, say, thank you guys for doing those behind the scenes things.
That's cool. I knew, obviously, I was talking to my wife earlier and thinking about this interview, and it's not the same, but I live a parallel life to Kenny in that people who know the Dice Tower know who Kenny is. If they've watched like a long time, they know who he is, they know his face. Similar for me, but I'm not a content guy. So people will know who I am, but they just get stuff done and they enjoy doing it. To your point, like I've said this for a long time since I was a massive fan of Foundation, like hardcore fan. And next thing I know, I'm working there. Like it's surreal. And I do my best, to your point, to never take for granted and realize how blessed I am that I get to hang out. And every once in a while, I literally just get to go play disc golf. And that's part of my job that day. Last week we had, Foundation they have a multi-week, imposter series where basically they're playing for money. But there's an imposter trying to tank the rounds, essentially. It's more complicated than that, but that's the gist of it. Robbie was in there last week, so he was up in town last week. And so we got to spend most of the week, I was out just watching people play disc golf and helping that. And that was my job. And I'm like, that's great. That's, I don't mind pulling and packing orders, but it's fun just to go watch and get to watch disc golf and play disc golf. So I am very thankful for that. And I'm glad to hear you the same way. It's not a surprise because I've always, each of my annual evaluations, when I talk to Hunter and Brad, my boss, I say, I thank you for letting me work here. I truly love it. However, and this is tongue in cheek, if the Dice Tower ever calls and offers me a job, I'm quitting immediately because I'd rather work at the Dice Tower. Because I love disc golf, but I'm a fanatic of board games, right? And so, all right, one more question. And so if you watch, or you may not, I don't know if you had time to watch any of our stuff, but essentially when we do our normal game reviews, we have a cookie scale. This is a new thing I'm inserting, Robbie, which I think is brilliant, so I'll take credit for this. So we do a cookie scale that's chocolate chip, or double doozy, chocolate chip, peanut butter, sugar, and oatmeal. Now, broader, this is a generic question, what is your favorite cookie? It doesn't have to be one of those fives. If you're a cookie person, what is your favorite type of cookie? It could be a specific cookie from like Crumble, a specific one from Great American Cookie, or just whatever. What is your favorite cookie, Chris?
Jason, you said you lived down in Florida before, so you've had, I'm sure, the Publix sugar cookie that has all the little sprinkles like pressed into it, right?
Yep. Oh, yeah. Oh, many, many times.
Yeah. I don't know what it is. It's not the highest quality cookie in the world. Crumble kicks it around the block. A lot of these specialty places, they're fancy. That Publix sugar cookie, it's just addictive.
Yeah. Robbie's a Georgia boy. Well, he's in Alabama now, but he grew up in Georgia, and Publix is a Georgia place as well. So he can relate, as you can tell, he can relate as well. And it wasn't particularly expensive for a Publix thing. Those cookies are not that expensive, and we had them a ton as well. So
$5.99 for like a dozen, 2 dozen. Yeah.
That's great.
My wife knows if I go to Publix to help pick up groceries, like, those are just like, it's a non-negotiable.
Right.
Those are I swing right over to the bakery, throw those in the cart. I'm with you.
You have to find them a nice home, right? It would be sad to see them get put in, get put down. So no, you bring them home. If it's hot outside, they're hot. Bring them in.
Amen.
Hey, thank you.
It's we're just helping the environment
doing our part,
bringing nice cookies home. Yep. I love it.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate
Jason,
it.
I've got one.
Absolutely, brother.
So I'm a spicy guy. I love spicy questions, and I love asking spicy questions. So when we talk about, this podcast is all about introducing new players to the hobby gaming space. And often you'll meet folks, right? All the time. Hey, I play board games. Have you ever played Catan? Right. I think you're very happy, very proud of this. So when we talk about the big three being, what would we say? Carcassonne, Ticket to Ride, and Catan. Is that
that's our big three?
Yeah, like those are the three. So of those three, Chris, tomorrow you have to wake up in a world that one of them doesn't exist. What world are you choosing? Because you're like, that would be awesome if this one didn't exist.
I don't think there would be a net gain. Like there would be no like hurrahs for any of them. If we're going to answer this with like the movie Yesterday, like that Beatles logic, right? Of like the world is pretty much the same, but I get to reinvent Settlers of Catan. You can't have the modern hobby game world without Catan. There's just no way, right? If you were to go back and just pluck that out of the sacred timeline, everything goes kaput. So if we're talking about retroactively, that stays in, right? That's one of those keyframe events or whatever they're called. So for me, though, it is my least favorite of the big three. I would be okay not playing Catan again. I actively do love Ticket to Ride and Carcassonne.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very... I think Robbie and I agree with you, but you were spot on in that it would not be the hobby we know without it. We all totally agree with that. However, that would be my same answer. But Robbie and I not disagree, but I did just play Carcassonne last night. So my family does this thing in February that's been extended called Fantastic February. We play a different game every night, have a competition. We keep score. We have a trophy. It's all kinds of stuff. Because of life, we haven't finished Fantastic February. We have one more game to go. We played Carcassonne last night because it's quick and easy, but I like Ticket to Ride way more. I don't dislike Carcassonne, but Ticket to Ride is still one of my top 5 all-time favorite games. And I'm correct, Robbie, in saying that not that you dislike Robbie, that you dislike Ticket to Ride, but Carcassonne's higher for you than Ticket to Ride. Is that correct?
Yeah, of the big three, I have to be convinced to play Ticket to Ride. Carcassonne, I will play blindly with anyone. I love Carcassonne. There's nothing quite like the rush of just seeing your farm, like going for a farmer super early and then just crafting the board and being like, oh yeah, I opened the game. Like that's every time I'm always slamming a farmer down, like my first tile if I can, and just hoping that it pans out. And I don't care if I lose, like hardcore. The games where you win off of that singular farmer, you're like, this is patient zero. He did it. Come on. I love it.
I applaud it.
So speaking of games we've played lately, Chris, would you like to talk about a game you've been playing lately?
Yeah, absolutely. The one I'm picking for this, I just got back from Dice Tower East, had a lot of time to play games there. We host a game day regularly, and so I've been playing a lot there. This one keeps coming up. This game is called Hot Streak. I'm not sure if you are familiar with this one. The very strange racing betting game from CMYK, designed by John Perry. And in this one, it's themed around a college mascot race. So if you've ever seen, excellent, you guys are in the world of professional sports. Do pro disc golf players have costumed mascots that run out there and show their support?
They don't, but they should.
They should.
Yes.
We do an event with Foundation every year where we play in a pro stadium and the mascot is always there during the video. It's incredible. So yes, I'm all about the mascots.
So anyone who's never seen a mascot race, now imagine 4 of those big goofy costume mascots trying to cross the finish line. So in this game, there's a deck of cards that is seeded with a few cards, and then players get to throw one in, and then they bet on which of the 4 mascots they think are going to win. And people are never prepared for how kooky this game is, because there's cards that'll move the hot dog 3 spaces forward. Everyone starts cheering, "Go hot dog!" And then there's a card that says the fish moves forward 1 space and then swerves left, and he might crash into someone. And all of a sudden, another mascot is knocked down on the ground, and then they have to just start crawling to try to move forward. And then the fish turns backwards and starts running the opposite direction, and then just kicks that bear while he's on the ground and knocks him out of the race. But then the fish runs off the back of the track and he's eliminated. And now it's just the queen and the hot dog racing back and forth, and they keep moving forward, backwards, swerving into each other. It is amazing. It is such a fun game.
That sounds awesome. I remember
looking at
y'all's
pictures and it looks great.
y'all's review of it. Like I think you guys all gave it a 9 or something like that. That's how much I think you, Tom, and Joey or something. So yeah, I remember from watching that review, I was like, well, that sounds interesting. I'm not a big party game guy, but I'm pivoting there because I can't get enough heavy games at the table with the people I play. So I'm having to slowly transition the games I play more often. And the way you describe that game sounds fantastic. I mean, Robbie, think about playing that with Brody or Hunter or some of our fellow disc golfers who get really animated when we play games and stand up and yell and scream. But that sounds awesome. So I'm definitely going to put that on my to look for list and possibly get.
Absolutely. You should try it. Those are the right group of people. Anyone who's more of like a serious methodical gamer, if they can turn the switch and be like, okay, we're in for a silly time. This game has never failed me. It's wonderful.
That's awesome here.
I love it. Well, Jason, you want to talk about a game you've been playing lately?
Absolutely. I did this twofold. One, because I want to talk about this game, but also because I know Chris and Wendy like Istanbul, if I remember correctly. Is that right, Chris? I believe you guys do. I remember you guys a couple years ago reviewed a stack of games, reviewed all of Istanbul. So Istanbul
watched a lot of our content. Okay, so you're not just joking.
I don't watch everything because I mean, thankfully, Dice Tower puts out a lot. But games I'm trying to learn about or games I'm thinking about, I will watch a lot. It's my first go-to for all of the stuff that I watch. I watch way more board game stuff than I ever watch disc golf stuff. But I work in disc golf, so it's the best of both worlds. So I'd been wanting to get Istanbul a while, but I have a bunch of games, and I have a bunch of games in my shelf of shame that I slowly got through, and I've started picking up some more games lately. So Robbie, Istanbul is it's a game that you're playing to get 6 gems, and you're moving around a board that can change. It's very the best game to equivocate it to is kind of 5 tribes, in that you're putting out tiles as your main board, and you're moving workers, either picking up workers or dropping off workers as you go based on your action. And when you drop off at a place or pick up at a place, you take the action at that space. Oversimplifying this entire thing, right? But it's very Mancala style, in that you're moving down or back, and you can't move back to the space you went into before, unlike 5 tribes. And each of those places, you're taking actions. And it's an economy stock game where I'm going to get this resource to go sell it, to get money, to maybe go to a spot to buy a gem, or to go here and add to my wheelbarrow. Not doing a great job describing it, but the function where you have a main guy and his assistants that you're moving around the board. And eventually you may get to a part where you can't drop or pick up. And so you just can't take an action on that until you slowly go back and start dropping or picking up people. I love it because I love 5 tribes. I've always loved watching 5 tribes, and I just have me and my youngest son. When I say youngest, he's 21 years old, but we can just see the board really well. And can kind of start, because it's an efficiency game in many ways. Based on the board that's out there, it's an efficiency game, and you can start working out your math to try to go do it. And I've only played it 2 players, Chris, so I know it may change at 3 or 4 because you have more interaction where you got to pay more money to people when you hit those spots. But I love unique actions in games, and picking up and dropping off people to take actions there is just fun, and thinking your way around the board. And especially because every time you play, Robbie, the board changes because you're laying out those tiles. It has a recommended starting setup. It has a recommended longer game setup. And then you start messing around with the game. And then the funny thing is, and I think we talked about it a little bit, Robbie, while you're here, my wife and I played it 3 times, and I've beaten Elizabeth successively worse every single time. So Elizabeth doesn't even want to play the game anymore because it's tough, because there comes a point in the game with the base game, you can see you're not going to win, and you can see someone else is going to win. Like there's a chance you can be like, oh, he needs 2 more gems, but he already has 27 lira and he has these resources. So he's going to go there on the next 3 moves and win the game, and I can't do anything about it. So that frustrates Elizabeth a little bit. Though I do know, I think you guys said that the coffee, one of the expansions helps change that a little bit, the coffee expansion or something, I believe. So, because I went and looked at that review when we started playing it just to get a feel for the other ones. But I really like Istanbul because of that moving around the board mechanism and taking those actions and kind of planning your moves ahead. Really cool.
Yeah, that's and Kennerspiel winner. Seeing that now, just looking at it. So, guys,
I'll say this. It's a game that's been out for a while. I mean, a long time. relatively long time, I guess. But if it came out in the last 5 years, it wouldn't have surprised me. As someone who hasn't played thousands of games, I've played hundreds of games. It's the kind of game that if it came out 5 years ago, I think it would be similarly decent game as opposed to being 10 or 15 years, however old it is.
I'd agree with that. It feels fresh and sleek still.
Yeah. Because the board changes, because the board is different every time. And yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, 2024 or 2014. Yeah,
2014.
I was looking at Hot Streak that came out this year, and like my brain was just making mush out of it. Speaking of brain being mush, my game that played recently was Skull. For the first time, got to play it. I love hit and roll. I love bluffing. I grew up in a card game household, so we never like progressed. We were Monopoly. We're going to play this over the next 7 days, family. Okay, we have a table that's set up for this. But cards were really our go-to. So I grew up playing spades, like as a family of 4 at a very young age. So I love bluffing. And so when Jason sits me down and shows me Skull, I was like, okay, this art is really pretty. I'm immediately entranced by the theme of this. What are we doing? And then when you're playing Skull, for listeners, you have 4 cards, and each player has 4 cards. 3 of them have a flower or something on it, and then there is one that has a skull. So you're going to go around the table. Everyone's going to put a card face down. You can either put your skull or you can put a flower face down. And then once everyone has a card in front of them, when it gets to your turn, you have the choice. You can either play another card face down, or you can set a wager or a challenge that you're going to turn over X amount of cards without finding a skull. The catch, you have to flip over all of your cards first. So if you think that people are getting antsy and they're trying to flip over cards as fast as possible, well, you can go ahead and put a skull down. And then if they flip over yours, they're going to fail the challenge, and thus they're going to lose one of their cards at random. Very, very intuitive. It was super fun to go through and try to figure out. I think Skull is one of those you could play with the same crew and sort of create a meta game very fast within your playing of Skull. But then as soon as if we're all playing and then Chris shows up to play with us, how Chris plays Skull could be vastly different than how we play Skull. So because the game is so simple, it's very easy to bring new players into the fold, but also adds just this super complex layer of strategy to it while still maintaining party game vibes. So I really loved the variance happening around Skull, because we had one guy playing with us who just got eliminated super fast. And then we ended up in this back and forth between 2 players in a 20-minute game where they both had 3 cards and it was just the 2 of them. And they're just like, Princess Bride got quoted a lot during that. And any time that we're talking about a land war in Asia, I'm in, and I'm going to love the game. So that was a Skull for me. Chris, I'm assuming you've played Skull before?
I have. It's brilliant in its simplicity, and it's so fun. Everything that you said, I agree with.
Come on. Well, Jason, do you want to introduce our topic for the day? For why we've brought in the master, Chris Yee.
Yep. Absolutely. So we get often probably one of the most common questions we get are, what are good games to play with our family? What are gives good games, if I can speak correctly, to play with our kids? Because a lot of our games, that we cover lighter games in general, but your kids, if your 9-year-old or 13-year-old can handle Cascadia, right? It's each of those individually. But I thought about, because I know between you and Wendy have a younger child, and that just from watching you guys in the Dice Tower, you will cover more kids games the same way Tom will cover kids games as well. And I was like, it's perfect to have some suggestions for what are good games to play with children. Now, when I sent this to Robbie and Chris, I didn't limit it to 3 to 7 years old. We could be talking about your 12-year-old, your 14-year-old, or your 5-year-old, right? So the games we'll discuss may cover any realm of that. And what's fun about this is that Robbie has a newborn, so he's not quite there, but he's a gamer enough and knows a lot of games, so it'd be good for him to start thinking about these. All 3 of my kids 2 have graduated college. They're 23, 22, and about to be 21. So they're all adult age kids, but I brought them up gaming from the time they were 5. So that'd be a lot of my references. And then, like we said, I know, your child is maybe preteens, maybe in that young age. So we have the good boundary or the spectrum of all the game playing ages for our group today.
Yeah,
I was going to jump. Go ahead, Chris.
I was going to say this is a topic I like because before we list off any games, I think one of the important things I would say about gaming with kids is always game at their level. And I'm not calling you out, Robbie, or anything, right? But I remember when I was, when we had our daughter, when she was newborn, it was so easy to say like, oh, I'm excited for when she can play this game with us or that game or whatever. And we had to do a lot of like impulse control of not buying games. Like in 3 years, this is going to be great. 'Cause 3 years is a long way away to store something for no reason. But we also played. Like if you have a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old kid and you're like, what game should I play with them? Probably games you don't like. Probably Hi-Ho Cherry-O, right? Yeah. And because as cool as so many of these modern games are, they just need to learn how to like pick up pieces and take turns and be okay with things going wrong. And so some of those games do work just fine. And also you can find them at thrift stores with most of the cherries available for like $3.
Chris, I appreciate the shout out because I would be lying if I said that I don't have Amazon pulled up on the side as well here for like, okay, I'm ready to do some shopping tonight. You know what I'm saying? So well played. He saw it in my eyes.
That was great, and great way to kind of set us forward on this discussion. That's kind of the caveat for it, because some of my games may not be at that level, but everything Chris said is 100% true. Like we played a ton of apples to apples with my kids. We played games played a bunch of Picturica with my kids, a bunch of Uno, different variations of Uno, so many different variations of Uno because that's what we played at their level that they could handle that. And those are all great games to play because they're teaching them still the basics of gameplay.
And I should clarify, maybe not just at their level, but also what they like. Your kid, much to if you're like I'm a gamer's gamer, and to your chagrin, they might love Phase 10 and Apples to Apples and Uno, and you might not. But your kids are not there to become trained to become replacement U's or your game group in the future. They're your kids. Play Uno with them. Play the games that they like.
I love that so much. See the people where they are. That's like one podcast that I run in the disc golf space, Chris, is we basically bring people on and we look at their disc golf bag and we look at holes that they have in their game and we suggest discs of like, have you considered trying this? Have you considered trying this? I love like tailoring someone like a disc to a person. And it's always been the most attractive part of this hobby for me is that like, okay, we can sit down. There is a board game for everyone out there. Even the person who really doesn't love board games, we can find a game that doesn't feel like a board game for you to enjoy. So I love that idea of, let them be a person, and have specific interests. So Jason, when you're thinking about this list, do we want to go like one at a time and sort of walk through, or what's your thoughts?
I think because in my mind, it was always let's just kind of talk about each of our games all together. Like, so I'll talk about all my games and then Chris and then you, if we're good with that. And that way, because I'm having a great conversation, but we already have 40 minutes and I love every second of it. So I truly don't want to abuse everybody's time because I could talk about games all night. So if y'all are good with that, I'll go first and I'll just cover all my games and then we'll talk about those and then move on. Is that good?
Works for me.
Okay, cool. Speaking, and if y'all are looking at the show notes, you'll be like, how many games is Jason talking about? So, but your point is what I'm about to mention. We played for my kids. Already mentioned, we played a lot of Picturica, a lot of Uno, a lot of Clue, a lot of different variations of Clue, because my wife loved that. We played a bunch of games I knew they liked were Munchkin and Flux. I never really I didn't dislike Munchkin and Flux, but we played a ton of Munchkin and Flux because that's what they loved playing. Escape the Game. They played, I know that music in the back of my head because I heard them play Escape the Game so many times, right? We had neighbors who were good gamers with us and they'd play it on our patio over and over and over. I never even played Escape the Game because they played over and over and over. So the games to Chris's point, the games they like and what they're happy with. I've talked about this, I haven't quite got to my games yet. And one other one that will surprise a lot of people. And I'm thankful because my youngest kid, Ryder, is my gamer, and he's my very smart, way smarter than the rest of the family. I won't let my other kids show that. But when we taught him Ticket to Ride, every child is different, right? Ryder was playing Ticket to Ride at the age of 6, but all my kids played open-handed. So all their trains were in front of everybody else. So even though it was almost like a co-op version of Ticket to Ride, even though they were scoring, they were helping each other out on the principle of that. Because I'm so old, we didn't have Ticket to Ride Junior when my kids were that young. So Ticket to Ride is one we use for us specifically. Now, and I've said that a few times on the podcast. Now I'm going to jump into the 3 games I'm going to talk about today. And one I added really late. So one is one we just played with Robbie while he was here. And I got one of my friends into it as well, is Trio, or Nana is the Japanese import. Trio is basically Go Fish memory. And I'm oversimplifying it, and it makes it sound really boring, but it's fantastic. In Trio, and I think I've talked about it as a game I played lately, but basically, and you can play this with a deck of cards. Somebody mentioned this. I saw somebody make a comment on the video. I'm like, you're right. You could literally play Trio with just a deck of cards, like ace through queen, or whatever, 2 through the king, whatever you want the numbers to be. But in Trio, what I like about it is because many kids from a young age are playing Go Fish, and they're playing memory games to talk about the things, apples to apples or whatnot. And in Trio, for those who don't know, it is, you have your hand of cards, and you're trying to make, depending on which version you play, the spicy version, you're trying to make 3 sets of 3, or get all 3 sevens, or get 2 sets that add up to 7, add or subtract to 7. But you can only ask people what their highest or lowest card is. So I'll say, Robbie, what's your lowest card? He has to show me his lowest card. Pure trust system, he has to show me his lowest. If he shows me a 2, then I ask Elizabeth, show me your lowest. If she shows it's a 2, well, now I'm trying to find that third 2. Now, if she showed it as a 1, well, my turn's over, but now, ideally, I'm remembering Elizabeth has the 1 and Robbie has the 2. Or you can ask, show me your highest card. Same way, you're fishing for those things. You can't ask what's in the middle, and it's all the honor system, what you're showing from high or low. And there's also cards that are in the middle, 6 or 8 cards, depending on how many players you're playing with, that are face down, that on someone's turn, instead of asking somebody what they have, you can always turn one over. So that gets into the memory aspect of the game. It sounds, I think I remember when I don't know who covered on the Dice Tower, I watched him, like, okay, it sounds okay. And then James Hudson, when he was on our podcast, we talked about it. It's a game he used to introduce people to it. I was like, okay, I don't know. And then my wife and son, who graduated from college, went to Japan recently. I'm like, you know what? If you can find Nana, I want the Japanese import version of it, right? I'm influenced by Mike DeLiso. I really want the Japanese one, which I have right here. I have Nana. My wife and son brought it back. And so when we got it, we played it. My wife and I played it with my daughter, her husband, and Ryder, and they're all in their early 20s. And we laughed our heads off and played like 5 games straight. It shocked me. If you describe this game to me, I'd be like, I would never like this game. And the moment we played it, the very first time, everybody at the table was laughing because, like, there's no way I'm going to forget that's an 8 right there. Sure enough, there's no way I'm going to forget that Elizabeth just showed a 12. And I'm not looking for 12s. And then I ask her what her highest number is, right? It just happens every time we ever play that you just forget what it is. Even hardcore gamers, it's easy to forget what's here or there. And every time we've played this, we've laughed our heads off. A good friend at work, he was looking for a game to get for his family. I suggested Trio. He bought it. And he said they've played it just dozens of times because he has a 8-year-old and a 9-year-old, I think, in their family in town. So it's a hit for sure. We played it with Robbie this last time. Now, the inside joke is I have Trio as well because the Japanese import is only for special people. And I only let certain people play my Japanese import game. And Robbie was lucky enough to play Trio, whereas my kids, when they play with their friends, had to play. Robbie's lucky to play Nana. My kids had to play with Trio because, I can't fly back to Japan and get that copy of the game. So, Robbie, I never actually asked you, Robbie, and then we'll let Chris talk. What did you think about Nana/Trio?
Yeah, I thought it was super fun. I agree. And when you describe the game, the gameplay experience is vastly different than the description. It really made me, when you were describing the game, my initial judgment was like, okay, so it's complicated Go Fish. That's fine. Like, that sounds interesting. And then very much enjoyed it. Thought it was really fun. I love the rush of like going for the 7s as well, because it's like this built-in fun catch-up mechanism of like, oh, snap, everyone's got 2 pair. but I've got 2 of the 7s and like, doesn't matter. Bang. I just win. Like that's so, I think that's super fun, but it reminded me of That's Not a Hat. Like when you describe That's Not a Hat to people and you're like, you're going to play a card and you just have to remember that you have a dog in front of you and I'm going to pass that dog to the left. Oh, snap. Is it a guitar or a frying pan in front of me? I have no idea. And like you just instantly blank. I got that exact feeling watching. I enjoyed both playing it and watching it, which is something you just don't find very often inside of a board game. So yeah, I loved it. That was great.
Fantastic pick. I've said it before. I'll say it again. I think everyone who owns a copy of Uno should instead own a copy of Trio. It's that simple. It's that good. This is a perfect pick.
That's a great analogy. And that will be going forward. When I reference Trio, I'm going to steal that, Chris, but I'll give you credit every time I say it because you're so right. You're so right. Okay. So the second game I want to talk about was actually from James Hudson designed this game. And not a lot of people talk about this. And we talked about when James was on there, but a game called Barnyard Roundup. Have you ever played Barnyard Roundup, Chris?
I've not, no.
Okay. So it's a really light game. It's the first one that Druid City released, and it's essentially a bluffing game. You're going to play through all your cards, and on your turn, you're going to say, you have your hand in front of you, and you're going to hand it to somebody and say, those are 3 cows. But it could be 2 cows and a sheep. And you're basically saying, yes, those are, or no, they're not. And basically, if I say those are 3 cows and they're 3 cows and you say, no, they're not, I reveal them, I get to keep those 3 cows. But if I say those are 3 cows and you say, yes, they are, I have to reveal them and you now take the cows. That's the entire, there's a few other things on it, but that's the entire game. It's essentially like a bluffing game and you're kind of playing with it. Super cute artwork. A lot of laughs as well because it's not the devious nature of trying to bluff stuff. It's really, really cute farm animals and that you're just like, okay. And you can play, if you're 4 players, I can go to anybody I want to say, okay, these are 3 sheep. You either say yes or no, and they turn it over like, oh, okay, yes, you're correct. I get to keep them or whatever that is. It's a set collection game, and the more you get, the better it is. And there are some other tokens you can do to kind of break it a little bit and change the turns. But the basics of it it's just a pure bluffing game. And because the artwork is super family friendly, super cute. It's one I never heard anybody talk of, because of our connection to James. Christopher, my brother-in-law, bought us the Kickstarter version this years and years ago, and we've just had it since. Super light, super easy. There's probably a ton of games that do it better, but I just love the artwork on it, and it's so easy and quick to play because you're just playing through every cards that are in there. Until it's all done, you count up how many goats I have, you count up how many cows I have, you count up how many chickens I have, and then there are crows that give you negative points. And that's the game. And then you can play it again, and you can play it again. We played it when our kids were younger. We played it with teenagers who thought it was funny as well because you're reading the people. Not quite as deep as not quite as deep as Skull, but you're still kind of reading people in there. And of course, you can be really nice to your kids. If you think your kid's going to say yes every time, we'll just give them 3 sheep. Here's the 3 sheep. And you think they're going to say yes, and they say no, like, I tried to give these to you, but you didn't take them. Barnyard Roundup from Druid City Games. Super fun, super light. I think it's still in production. It may not be in production anymore, to be honest. I don't know. But if you see it out there and you want a fun game this is one I would play. His age on here is 7+. Totally makes sense. Depending on your child. Again, if you know your child, you maybe could do lighter because it's just bluffing with that.
Cool. Sounds fun.
And then the last one is a little heavier, a little more cognitive load, but is one I was trying to go through ones that we haven't talked about a lot, and mine are obviously a little bit heavier for sure. Is Herbaceous. Herbaceous is a I cut, you choose set collection game, whereas everyone has essentially 4 goals, 4 flower pots in which they're putting their herbs in, or 4 pots they're putting their herbs in. They're basically cards in front of them. They have 4 different goals. One is sets of cards, sets of herbs, 2 per. One is different herbs, and one is the same herb. And on your scoring cards, everybody has the same 4. It shows, well, when you choose to do this, if you have 5 of this lavender, at the end of the game, you're going to score this. But it's an I cut, you choose, where you turn over a card from the deck, and you can either keep it or put it in the community garden, and then you have to take the next card. So I love that decision making I'm trying to make a set, and this is definitely the cognitive load in this is definitely heavier than what Barnyard Roundup is or Trio is, because you're thinking a little bit more for it. But you're thinking, okay, I'm trying to go for lavender. There's already lavender out in the community garden, but I want this in my private garden. And the heavier part of it comes when each of your 4 goals, once you choose to place those cards underneath that scoring card, you're done for the game. You're done for that game. You're no longer getting a single card. If I've chosen those 4 lavenders and put in there, I can no longer go for all the same ones. You have to choose when you take all those cards from the cinder part or combine it with a private garden and that public garden, that public space for sure there. I selfishly like, I cut, you choose. That's just a me thing that I really like. And I love having to make that decision when you go through there. And it's definitely, like I said, a little bit heavier, relatively heavier game because there's a little more thought to it, but it's a fun way to choose, okay, how much am I going to push my luck? How much further do I go to try to get more sets of these? Or do I go ahead and take my sets now, knowing someone else may go higher on that level? Have you played Herbaceous, Chris?
I've not, but you describing it made me think of another game with the I cut, you choose that I think works extremely well for families. Have you played Rome in a Day?
I know that one, but I haven't played it.
I think it's great. It's like a 20-minute game.
Yep.
One to look for if you like that I split, you choose mechanism, because everyone's doing it simultaneously for the player on their left, and then everyone does it simultaneously for the players on their right, and just 4 rounds of that, and then it's done. It's amazing. So, but I do need to check out Herbaceous. I like a lot of the other games in that line. Floriferous is fantastic, but yeah, that's one I need to check out.
Yeah, Floriferous is one that I won because I use BG Stats. I won like the first 10 times I played Floriferous somehow. It's like my best played game, and I love that mechanism of moving over. And Robbie, I didn't look in BG Stats. Have we played Herbaceous with you?
I've not played it.
You haven't played Herbaceous? So, okay, we'll have to it's a quick game, and it's one of my super quick, super light. The art is amazing in the pencil first games, and Herbaceous is one on there for sure. All right, that is my 3 games. I'm going to turn it over to you, Chris.
All right. So the first one, I snuck in my honorary mention there.
I love
it. So the one that we used, probably one of the games that we played the most with our daughter, even before she could read, was a game called Go Nuts for Donuts. This is from Game Right Games, who also makes Sushi Go. I think either of those are good, but the donuts theme really spoke to our daughter. It's adorable artwork, very cute, and not even one of my favorite games. I think it's a fun game, not necessarily a good game, so to speak, because there's if you're playing 5 players, there's 5 cards in the middle of the table, or 5 numbers, 1 through 5, and then you reveal a donut onto them. Everyone has cards in hand 1 through 5, simultaneously reveals them. If you're the only person who selected 1, you take that donut, and it scores in different ways. If you're the only person who revealed 2, you take that donut. Oh, multiple people revealed 3. Sorry, no one gets it. It gets trashed. It goes to the discard pile. And it feels kind of mean, but at the same time, it's more of like oh no, how did that happen? Ha ha ha. And it's that feeling of, well, out of these 5, there's clearly one best donut. I shouldn't play that number. But if everyone's thinking that, then I'm the only one who does play it, then I get the best donut. So, and the fun thing about this was there's text on all of the cards, but you can just kind of explain it to your kid, or they can just flip over a card and collect the prettiest donut, as is what my daughter did for the first few years playing this game. And it's one that has grown with the family, so we like it because of that. And, now our daughter's 9, and so she can obviously read very well. It is past the level of Go Nuts for Donuts. And so it's cool to see this game having had grown with her. Yeah. Either you guys tried this one?
I love that. I've not played it, but it reminds me seeing that it's from Game Right, it reminds me of the rush that you get when you play Sushi Go. I can't remember what piece it is, but it's a similar vibe of like, if I turn over this roll or something like that and no one else has it, then I get to keep it. And I love having that, like building that into the menu in Sushi Go Party because of everyone just having that, like,
yeah,
I flipped it. Yeah, that's so fun. What a fun mechanic.
Absolutely.
We had looked at Go Nuts for Donuts, but it's just so light for my family. It wouldn't be it'd be just to play with other folks, and sounds great. It'd be a game that definitely the way you describe it, one we would have played when my kids were younger, but it was just too light for me because the artwork always pulled me in whenever I see, and the name is great. Go Nuts for Donuts just sounds fantastic, and the artwork is pretty cool because of that. It's cool to hear.
Yeah, like I said, not a good game, perfectly objectively speaking. And I'm not saying go get it for your game group, but for kids, it's always gone over well. Another one, the next one I have written down is Concept Kids. So there's the original Concept game, which is like a charades, but with a board where you put out these different cubes and these different little tokens out there to explain a concept, to get people to guess something. They made a kids version, which is a little simpler, and it's all about animals. And so you put out something, and there's a whole board that has these different traits, and kids are putting cubes and tokens and stuff out there to explain. Oh, it's a large animal. It's gray. It eats plants. And so people go, oh, okay. It does have horns, right? You know what I mean? So it's a way to break down a larger concept into smaller pieces and get people to guess based off of it. And I think that it's better than charades or anything like that. And I like that it makes kids kind of think creatively, both as the clue giver and as the guesser. I don't know if either of you guys played this one.
I've not. I've played larger Concept, but not the kids version, and it sounds great.
Yeah, I've never played Concept. I didn't even know there was a Concept Kids, but I didn't even know what Concept was until you just kind of explained it, or the adjacency of that. Cool.
Yeah, it works really well for younger kids, and another game that you don't need to be able to read to play.
Yeah.
And then the last one that I'm recommending is going to be Micro Macro. There's like 4 games in the regular Micro Macro series, and then they just came out with Micro Macro Kids. And the main difference is just kind of suggestive content, maybe, that's in the game, because all of the games are very simple. There's crimes that happen, and there's a little, you play through a different case. You look around on this map, and it's a little case of like, where's Waldo? You're looking for different clues on there. Very adorable artwork, and the little deck of cards kind of walks you through the steps of trying to solve this crime. The cool part is that the map is not a single moment in time. It's not a picture, but it is drawn in such a way that if you follow a character, if you look at the direction that they're going, if you follow that, you'll see that character again in the future. As someone's carrying a hat, and then you look forward and you see, oh, they dropped off the hat to someone. Maybe they stole money and they're hiding it in the hat. And then you follow where that person went to and you find their house. And so it's just this really cool, where's Waldo through time kind of a thing. And then you follow them backwards and you see where the hat came from. It's so delightful. One of the complaints with the original one was that it's a game from Europe. And I think American and European standards of what's acceptable in a family game, like the kind of jokes and the level of murder is maybe different. So they did make a kids version, which has just less questionable content, which, for many people, I think you're going to appreciate that. But if you don't mind, then you have many boxes that you can play through, and they're all super fun.
Yeah. I am jealous that I didn't think of this, but I'm glad you mentioned it because it came out way after my kids were younger, but it's such an amazing, it truly is the amount of drawings and figures on that board, on that massive map that you fold out is just amazing. And each of the stories are so fun and interesting. I even went to Amazon and ordered like magnifying glasses because my eyes are really bad. And so I ordered we each have handheld magnifying glasses to follow the guy who has the suitcase and the money's falling out. Now he's in the car driving down L Street, and now he's going in the subway. It's a brilliant concept that is so simple and basic. Other than the intricacy of the drawing on there, the game, I know the Dice Tower guys talk about a lot, but some games are so basic. It's brilliant how they came up with just one is one of the most basic but brilliant games that are out there, right? Mm-hmm. And Macro City is in that world because it's just a drawing and there's infinite number of stories. I mean, they have to integrate that in there. And you're right, there are people on the ground with knives in their chest in the main one. And I saw they came out with a Micro Macro Kids. Without doubt, this is one we would have owned had our kids been younger, and it is such a good game.
Yeah, we grew up with like this book basket that only came out around Christmas season, and like my mom loved that tradition so much that before I even like had kids, my mom has been building a Christmas book basket for my son. So we just got it like this year, and it has to be 30, 40 books in there. So we had this book basket, and it always had a Where's Waldo inside of it. And my brother and I, that book is wore out. And as 30-year-old adults, when we gather at my parents' house for Christmas, you best believe my brothers and I are sitting down with that Where's Waldo book and busting it out. So I didn't know this game existed.
Yep.
And you know what? I'm going to break my own rule here. It's going in the cart because that's awesome. I love that so much.
It works perfectly well for an adult game group as well. So yeah, you're in for a fun time. Add to cart.
Yep.
Yeah. That's awesome. So my three,
He's got one more. Chris has one more.
Yeah. Push. Yeah.
Wait,
if you want to tell us about Push, fire away.
Sure. Push is a wonderfully underrated push your luck card game. It's the type of game you can teach just by taking your first turn. You flip over a card, and it looks like an Uno deck, actually, colored cards with numbers on them. But what's really neat is as you flip over more cards, you choose whether you want to stop or keep flipping. And you want to try not to bust. If you bust, you don't gain anything. But you can create up to 3 columns of cards, and that's because you can't repeat the same color or the same number within a column. And if you have 3 columns, each one has a yellow card in it. And you flip over a yellow card, you've busted. What's neat about it is when you choose to stop, as long as you don't bust, you get to collect one of those columns of cards. And each card is worth a number of points shown on it, 1 through 6. But then the next person after you gets to collect one of the other remaining columns of cards you've built up. And then if there's a third one, then the third player after, the next person, and then the next person gets to collect them. And so you're trying to make one great column and maybe make the other ones bad even. And it's just, there's this fun little brinksmanship to it as you're just like, I can go another one. I can make this really good for myself. And then you bust, and then 3 other people take from your hard work, like little vultures ready to, nom nom, all the work that you've done. So it's one of those that people are constantly egging each other on and laughing. It has a little die roll in it that makes you lose cards, but it's fun to roll the die. You roll green, all your greens go away. It's so silly, but it's an absolute delight. One that I think got overlooked from Prospero Hall. So yeah, Push.
Yeah. So funny story. I bought this game after watching one of your times you mentioned that. You probably mentioned it in a video somewhere and talked about Push. I looked it up and bought it and love it. Like you can get it. I bought it off the internet, but you can buy it off. I see it at Barnes & Noble all the time. And it doesn't get played a lot, mostly because I forget about it. Because the odd thing is it comes in that all black plastic case. Mine does. And so it sits on my shelf. I literally can't see the game, like, because I have a black shelf. So I was just looking over there. Do I still have Push? Oh, it's right there. Hey, so Robbie, I actually brought this too. So we'll step back. So Robbie has a Patreon group called the Birdie Fam. And once a year, he does a Birdie Fam Takes Over Birmingham, where basically all Patreon members can come in and hang out. And we do a tournament for that weekend, and he holds a game night every year. One of the games he's going to talk about, we played at the first game night. But at Robbie at the 2023 one, so 2 years ago, I brought Push, and I played Push with John. So your brother, John, has played Push along with Kathy, Marty, Hope, and Brian. So if any of you guys are listening, you guys have played Push. Chris just put on there and validated that I made a good decision by bringing that game down there. So you would like Push, Robbie. Quick, like Chris described it perfectly. It's light. I think even when I started to teach it, you probably said the same thing, Chris. Just play it to teach it, and then if you want to start scoring, great. But just play through it because you see it a couple times, like so many games. Like, oh, this is very easy and obvious now. Great choice. Fun game for sure.
Oh, it's pretty rare. For my older brother is the one that got me into hobby gaming, and it's pretty rare at this point. I've played most of the games that he's played because seasons of life have pulled him out of it. And so now I introduce him to the games. So I'll have to play Push.
There you go.
That way he doesn't have a leg up on me.
I think I told you as well. He had a leg up on you on Skull because I showed him Skull this past year before I showed you Skull as well. So there you go. Now you're caught back up with John with what I've showed him.
Yeah. Oh, it's coming. It's coming to family. We're all gathering next week, and Skull's coming because my family they're going to love it. The bluffing aspect and all of that. So I've got two that I'm going to kind of combine into one because we've done an episode on both of them. But I love them both. And my wife, even when I told her about like, here's the category, my wife is a children's librarian, Chris. And so she works at a very, very like large library that has board games that you can check out. And even their children's department has board games that you can check out. And so all of the games that I'm listing, I know exist in her library collection because we play them enough that she can give families honest reviews of like, hey, this one's fantastic. So Dixit will always be up there as an honorable mention for me. I love Dixit so much because the kids can just play like really cute cards. Like, once again, I love that they don't have to read, and I like that it can kind of level up with them. They can just play cards if they want to. They can be a part of it. We played with my nephew when he was 5 or 6, and we would ask him, okay, we want you to pick a card and then use a word to describe it, Atticus. And he would be like, okay. And then he would say that, and then he'd play his card face down, and then we'd all try to guess what his card was. And we'd be like, the connections he would make to why that word mattered made it so fun. Like, he'd say shoe, and we're like, okay, he's got the card of the lady with the shoe. Like, obviously, has to be. And then his card would be like people walking on a beach. And we're like, why did you go shoe here? And he's like, well, because they're not wearing shoes. Yep. You know what, bud? You're right. They are not wearing shoes. That's a great pick. So Dixit will always be up there for it. I got called recently. Dogs are getting excited about Dixit. I got called on Gary tagged me. We played Stella last week, and Gary said that I might be the most aggressive board game player he's ever played with, me and our friend Brody. So when you think of playing the Heat, the racing game, I'm the right guy to have at the table for that. I'll tell you, Chris. So excited about that. And then the other was King Domino. The first time I ever played King Domino, we had a family board game night at the library, and that was it was there. And so I sat down with a couple other people and played with kids that like I didn't know them or their parents, and got to introduce, like, we learned King Domino together. Phenomenal, award-winning. Like, it is, I'm all about that. So those are my two, like, probably common suggestions. What are your thoughts on those, gentlemen?
I love King Domino. It's been in my top 10 games for you. I think it's still in my top 20 or so. I think it is a perfect game. Wonderfully simple, but it has enough little wrinkles to it. That whole idea of the tile you take is your turn order. We talked about Floriferous. It obviously has been, inspiration for many games since then, and I adore that. I think it's a perfect game.
It's one that Robbie actually showed it to me because it's one of the handful of longtime popular games that I had never played. I mean, I say handful. There's a bunch of them because I haven't played Hansa Teutonica. I just played Istanbul. I still haven't played Caverna, right? Some of the ones that us hardcore gamers know, and always knew King Domino was in that world, but I'd never played it. And Robbie brought it, and I loved it. But it's still, I have no reason to add it to my collection right now because I have so many other games I would pull out. But I think I told Robbie then if I'd found this 10 years ago, it would never leave my collection, which is that weird kind of, I came to it so late, have no reason to add it to my collection. But if I'd had it 10 years ago, it would never leave the collection. Same way Carcassonne or Ticket to Ride. I would look at it as like that because you're right. And there's no real, for the level of game it's a perfect game. And I love the fact, you're right, I had forgotten Floriferous is definitely inspired by that selection of the tiles, which I love the changing dynamic of who gets to choose next. Always love that in games. Yeah. And of course, Dixit is, I assumed Robbie was going to mention Dixit. So that's why I didn't mention it. Cause like you said, you don't have to read anything and you could have a 5-year-old who looks at it in different ways. shoes could be I'm not wearing shoes, or antiquity could be a really old guy or some old things in a window, right? That's a callback. We played Stella last week. Antiquity caused some headaches among people, Robbie specifically, and I won that game by a lot. Just want to foot stomp that right there. And it was a tough game for Robbie as a hardcore gamer who's really good. So, but that's what
Chris, the word is antiquity, and there's like 4 pictures of old people on there. And so I'm like, okay, I know someone's going to pick one of the old people to go with this. Like, I just know they're going to pick it, but they're not going to believe in it enough to click all of the old people. So what old person are they picking? And I'm just stressing out over here. And I was like, you know what? I'm just sending them all. I don't care. I'm already so down. Doesn't matter.
Yeah,
Okay,
it was
great.
good stuff. But yeah, that's of course, those are definitely very good choices.
Yeah, Stella's my preferred version, but Dixit does such a good job of anyone can play it. Anyone.
Yeah. I'm the same way. Once we started playing Stella, I rarely pull out Dixit unless it's a newer gamer just to show them Dixit. And we bought Disney Dixit because we're a massive Disney fan. So of course I have Disney Dixit, but I will always pull out Stella before for folks who played it. And I showed Robbie to Robbie on a previous trip, and it was a big hit for the group that we played because we played Dixit. All the folks who were in town, we had a game night at our warehouse on Monday night, and Robbie taught Dixit to a lot of folks. And then we had a smaller group game night a few days later. We had Stella, so those who had played Dixit kind of understood it. Good choices.
So my other 2 are, sitting in front of 2 titans here of board gaming world. These are 2 that I go, okay, I understand what I'm saying here, but I literally played these for my 33rd birthday party 2 weeks ago. We played both of them. And let me tell you, they crushed with that crowd. And I think they would crush with your crowd as well. They would crush with your family because they take 2 concepts that every kid knows how to play and they turn it into a board game. So the first is Ice Cool. And how Ice Cool is a play on Ice School because there are penguins that are moving around a board. They figured out how to take tag and turn it into a board game. And it is a thrill. Like, it's just a thrill. You can organize the box is 5 different boxes that you can rearrange to create different formations of your Ice School for Ice Cool. And you're flicking these penguins around that are weighted and they like bobble back and forth. So you're sliding these penguins across. And if you decide to be a go-getter, you can flick the head of the penguin and it'll hop over walls to like navigate around the school. But basically one person's trying to tag and everyone else is trying to slide around the school to collect fish. Super fun. You don't have to be able, like, if you can know numbers 1, 2, and 3, you can play this game because you're just flicking your color piece around, trying to get it through this certain doorway. And when you draw that, you draw a card and it has a 1, 2, or 3 on it. And those are in-game scoring points. That's the whole game. It is fascinating. And then you can buy Ice School 2, which is the exact same game. It just takes it from like prime colors to these like pastel colors, but you can combine them together. And by their powers combined, you create Ice University, which is these massive boards that you're playing with. And I'm telling you, our friends are playing this. People are hooting and hollering. Like, I'm going upstairs to make sure my son is okay. And I can hear from his nursery, "Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?" Because people are getting tagged playing this. What a legendary time. Have either of you played Ice Cool?
Sure have. It's everything you said. Everything you said is what makes it so strangely compelling to hear a bunch of grown people, you jumped the wall. How did you tag? How'd you jump the wall? Great.
I've never played it. Christopher and Mandy own it. And at the first game night we had, Robbie, for the first Birdie Family Reunion, I knew you had it set up. And I was watching some people play that, but I was teaching Villainous of all things because somebody wanted to play Villainous in a game that we never finished because it's such a long game. But I was teaching Villainous while you were teaching Ice Cool. So we were actually seeing it set up. But I could see that, having never played it, but seeing across the disc golf store, Iron City, I could see people playing it and why it would be such a fun game. Maybe one day I'll play it.
Yeah, next time we have a game, I'll pack it for next time I'm up there and we have a game night, because I think it's at a table and people are just cycling in and out of Ice University.
Yeah.
The other one is one that honestly, until prepping for this show, I didn't realize that I had a reprint, because I truly believe that I had this was just a game that got released later, and it's called Shadows in the Forest. So according to BGG, Shadows in the Forest came out in 1985, and it actually makes so much sense. So if Ice Cool is tag, Shadows in the Forest is hide and seek as a board game. So what's going to happen is you're going to turn all the lights off, and when you build this board, it's just a flat, plain board. And then you assemble these little trees and bushes that have hiding, they're just cardboard pieces that lock into each other. So think of like a T or a cross as these cardboard pieces lock in, and you set them in certain spots on the board, and it creates your forest. You then turn on this little lantern that comes, and it casts light all through the forest. It's a 1 versus many. So one person is the lantern, and they are just moving around the forest, trying to find all of the creatures hiding in the forest. If you get caught by the lantern, because you're going to move around and try to dodge the light, and if you get caught in the light, you lose your mask, or in the original, you lose your hat, and you're frozen in place. So then the only way to get unfrozen is that your other forest friends have to come hide with you for a turn without being seen by the light. So one person is moving this lantern around. Everyone is just like, I hope he doesn't find me. I hope he doesn't find me. And it's so cool how light is used to create this. I mean, it just peeks through. It's very, as I describe it, it feels very Trio-esque in terms of so we're just hiding in the dark and we're just moving around. We should all just be able to get together really fast, and it's not going to be that fun. And then as soon as the board's set up and the lights turn off and the lantern's on, you're like, okay, this is a little more complicated than I thought it was going to be. Interesting. And then the original, when they played, it was a candle. They just lit a candle and moved the candle around instead of the modern battery-powered lantern. So Shadows in the Forest, it is a game that we picked up at Target one time. Just, I don't know, that looks interesting. And we have a board game basement. That'll be fine. And I think you could teach your kids easily, hey, we're just hiding. We're hiding. It's raining outside. We can't go play hide and seek in the backyard right now. But we can go downstairs and we can play this board game and still play hide and seek. I love it for that aspect. Have y'all played Shadows in the Forest?
If not, it's eluded me.
I've never even heard of it. I've never heard of it, which is not a surprise because I'm a snobby gamer. So, if it's on the Target shelf, I'm probably just going to keep walking. Not just kidding. I've actually never heard of it. So it definitely, the description of it definitely sounds like a fun game to play with kids in the dark, right? It definitely sounds like a very interesting, fun game to work your way around that. Very cool.
Yeah. A little glow in the dark dice as well comes in the new version. Nice. But yeah, I was shocked when I looked it up on BGG and I was like, this makes so much sense that they reprinted and made this way, because the trees used to be wooden, and now it's all cardboard pieces and a little battery powered lantern. So yeah, those are our games. But we want to know in the comments down below, what are games that work for your family and have been successes for you guys? Are you Ticket to Ride folks like the Collins household? What has worked for you? And that way, hopefully, if you are new parents or your kids are starting to get that board game, we want this episode to be a resource that you can come back to and point to the comment section and say, hey, yeah, that would be awesome. I thought about trying that. And we'll do our best to respond in the comments down below. So, Chris, we want to say thank you once again for coming on and being here with us and listening to some of our rambling and sharing your wisdom with us. Where can the people find you when they want to see more Chris Yee?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am a staple over on the Dice Tower channel. So go check us out on YouTube. We still do DTV Audio, which is an audio version of some of the live shows and stuff that we do. So if you want to listen to it while driving, to the post office for your job in absolute agony, go ahead and listen over there. Also, if you're in person at conventions, Gen Con or Essen will be there this year, as well as our own conventions and stuff. Are you all right if I do a personal little plug here for myself?
Please do.
Always.
Please do.
I will have my first board game design coming out actually at Gen Con this year. So apropos of this list, it's a little card game called Soda Jerk. It's coming out from Allplay in their little tiny box line, $10 game. And it's something that I've played with my daughter. She was, one of my primary play testers and stuff for the last few years here. And it's a very, very simple little card game. As you play cards out underneath, there's 5 different flavors of soda. And you're trying to play cards either that match or don't match. Matching flavor cards increase the value of it, and mismatching ones decrease the value of it. So anything that you hold onto in hand will be multiplied by the end value there. So that's part of why it's called Soda Jerk, is because you can build them up, or you can kind of stick it to your friends a little bit there. So it's just a fun, very quick little card game, kind of fits in with some of the other ones that we've been talking about here. But I adore those types of games. And so I'm really honored that one of my own designs actually gets to come out. So if any of you are going to be at Gen Con this year, I'll be there, and so will my game. And then it'll be more widely distributed through Allplay.
That's incredible.
That's awesome. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, my older brother lives within walking distance of Gen Con.
That's got to be terrible.
And yeah. So there's a lot of conventions that come through, and he's like, it's great because we're close to downtown, and it's also tough because we're close to downtown. So, exactly. But it is certainly on my list to get to a Gen Con. And yeah, I hope you guys have a blast. It's in a couple weeks.
Yeah, about
first
3
weekend
weeks,
in August.
I think.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Robbie and I have talked about it. Our goal, because we have a free place to stay there, and it's only, I think, a 6 or 8 hour drive for me, so it's not a really bad drive to get over to Indianapolis from where I'm at. So it's an easy trip over. So not this year, but hopefully next year we'll finally hit Gen Con for sure. Yeah, congratulations, Chris. That's awesome.
Oh, yeah,
I've seen your post about it, and when I saw the description, I'm like, oh yeah, those kind of games are fun. Is there any? So I guess Allplay is going to carry it. Do you even know if it's going to go wider distribution, or I guess you're just going to start Allplay now and go from there?
No, I mean, Allplay is the publisher for it, and I got you. Yep. So then, because they have like partnership programs, or this is actually one of their games that they're producing. They do that tiny box line. Tons of great games in that one, Rainbow and Fairy and Vivo and stuff. So good games worth checking out. And so I'm honored that mine gets to sit alongside some fantastic titles too.
Sure. Very cool. Very, very cool. I will say this. I'll add one more thing. If the Dice Tower crew ever gets into disc golf, just reach out and we can definitely get you some starter sets to play with. Cause I even looked up, there are a few courses around Fort Myers. Cause right, you guys just relocated to Fort Myers. Is that correct?
Yeah. Just about 2 months ago, I think at this point. Yeah. So, I've played a little bit back in Las Vegas, and I haven't really touched it since moving out to Florida. So I appreciate that offer. I'll keep that in mind.
If you ever get into it, let us know. We can definitely hook you up with some good starter discs for sure.
All right. Well, thank you so much, guys, for inviting me out. I've loved my time being here, chatting with you guys, and hearing your stories too.
Absolutely. Well, we are honored to have you. It just continues to blow our minds that we can get incredible guests like yourself to come on the show. So thank you guys for listening. Y'all are the reason it's possible, for your continued support. So thank you so much. And we will see you guys in 2 weeks for our next episode. Have a good one.